Today I want to talk about a movie trope. I want to talk about cat scares, and the reason for this is because Rachel and me, say hi Rachel.
Hi!
We're
Rachel.
watching two things in the space of 1 week that both had cat scares in it, and they both made me laugh for different reasons. The first thing we watched was Alien, the Ridley Scott movie, and that is set, as you probably know, in outer space on a spaceship far away from planets with cats on them, and they're going through the spaceship, and what's the name of the woman? Ripley has like a stun gun type thing, and they're going through, and one of them's holding a net, and they've heard something, and the detector is showing that there's a life form nearby, and then they suspensefully go up to the door and they open it, and a cat jumps out of them.
When I say, all right, now, easy.
Wait, don't let him go!
What the hell are you doing, man?
It's a cat.
In a spaceship, and so that made me piss myself because, you know, even on a spaceship they managed to get a cat scare in. The second cat scare we saw that week is one of my favourite clips from any TV show of all time. If I'm ever feeling down or depressed, all I have to do is play that like a few-second clip and I am happy for the rest of the week. But I'm going to save that for the end of the video, so stick around and I'll share it with you because I'm going to play a few clips. One of the reasons I love cat scares is because it means that it was somebody's job to stand off camera and throw a cat at some actors. That was somebody's paid job. I want to throw a cat at some actors. So, if you don't know what a cat scare is, there is some confusion on the internet. People think a cat scare is a generic term for a jump scare. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking specifically about when a character or a group of characters thinks that they're about to be killed by some monster or serial killer or something else, and when they go to check in the wardrobe or, you know, in the dustbin, a cat jumps out instead of a murderer. And usually there's a slight reprise as they catch their breath, and then they turn around and get an axe in the face. That's sort of the setup of a cat scare. So the Alien and the other cat scare that we saw, it got me thinking about cat scares in general. Like, where did they come from? When did they start? What was the first ever cat scare? And there is a lot of debate online about this, but I have found the oldest cat scare of all time. Now this is going to be controversial and you might disagree with me, but hear me out and you will agree with me after I am done explaining myself, hopefully. There's like, there are forums where people will say the oldest cat scare was Alien in 1979. And then somebody else says, no, the oldest cat scare was Friday the 13th in 1981. But there are people who don't understand the concept of time. Linear time. 1981 comes after 1979. But there is one before Alien. There was an episode of Star Trek called Catspaw that had a cat scare in it.
Get to the chopper!
As you can probably hear, there's an aeroplane going over, which for some reason it reminded me of something, so I will get back to what I was saying just now. But look, about Alien, there's been these comic books coming out over the last few months. Where are we here? starting with issue 1, Alien. And what they've done is they've gone back to the original script before Geiger got on board and before Ridley Scott got on board, with the Alien designs that we're also familiar with. And they've adapted the original screenplay with everything as it was described in the screenplay, the monsters and the aliens and whatnot described as they were, and they've released them as comics so you can see what the film would have been in the mind of the writer who wrote it. But I want to just check the cat scare. Let's see if we can find the alien cat scare in the comic. I think I know where it is. Yes. Now this is black and white, so I might superimpose over this. You see? There's the rod. They're going in. The cat has jumped out. Everybody screams. It's just a cat. So, cat scares in comics. We have found a cat scare in a comic. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So, now, here's the thing. If you Google what was the first ever cat scare, the internet will tell you that it came from a film called The Cat People, which was released in 1941. No, 1942. I probably wrote this down. I don't think I wrote it down. If I'm wrong, doesn't really matter. Yes, the Cat People. I wrote down the description of The Cat People from Wikipedia. The film tells the story of Irene Dubrovna, a newly married Serbian fashion illustrator, obsessed with the idea that she is descended from an ancient tribe of cat people who metamorphose into panthers when aroused. That is the premise of the movie, and it claims to have the first ever cat scare in it. So I've watched this clip, and I'm going to share the clip with you in just a moment. So in this scene, in the story, this woman who believes that she is descended from cats, her husband is having an affair with this other girl, or she believes she is, and so she's stalking her down the streets, and the girl is getting increasingly more scared that something is coming behind her, potentially a cat person. And as she's going down the dark street at night, there is a hiss, and she turns, and it's a bus. That isn't a cat scare, that's a bus scare. So I am discounting that movie, but here's a clip.
Climb on, sister. Are you riding with me or ain't you? You look as if you'd seen a ghost.
Did you see it?
Yes, I'm not looking for jump scares or bus scares, or horse scares or tree scares. I am looking specifically for cats that have been thrown at actors for our entertainment. So, if the Cat People isn't the first scare, what is? Well, like I said before, bear with me here. I have found the very first cat scare, and I will prove it. The first ever cat scare came from 1799, in a poem called God's Judgment on a Wicked Bishop by Robert Southey. A poem? You're trying to say the first cat scares from a poem? Yes, I am, and hear me out. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not very knowledgeable on poetry. I haven't read lots of poetry. I'm not against poetry. I'm just not very knowledgeable on it. So I haven't read many poems. And you maybe have an aversion to poetry. Or maybe you don't. This is all for tube, after all. We are all literary and smart and brilliant and attractive people. But I'm going to read... This is a very long poem. I say very long. It's about 80 lines. I'm gonna do another video, which will be linked at the top of this description, where I read the whole poem, because it is disturbing and brilliant and entertaining. It's horror at its finest, and I was very surprised by it and very entertained by it. So I'm going to read the whole thing, but what I'm going to do now is just read the first 4 verses, then I'm going to explain what happens, and then I'm going to read the cat scare, and you can decide if this is the first ever cat scare. I believe it is. So this is the poem, God's Wrath on a Wicked Bishop by Robert Southey. The summer and autumn had been so wet that in winter the corn was growing yet. 'Twas a piteous sight to see all around, the grain lay rotting on the ground. Every day the starving poor crowded around Bishop Hatto's door, for he had a plentiful last year's store, and all the neighbourhood could tell his granaries were furnished well. At last Bishop Hatto appointed a day to quiet the poor without delay. They bade him to his great barn repair, and they should have food for the winter there. Rejoice, such things good to hear, the poor folk flocked from far and near. The great barn was full as it could hold of women and children, and young and old. Then when he saw it could hold no more, Bishop Hatto, he made fast the door, and while for mercy on Christ they call, he set fire to the barn and burnt them all. It's a good opener for a poem, isn't it? A bishop inviting all the poor people to his barn and locking it and burning them to death. And so after that, it goes on, and God sends rats to serve Bishop his penance, and so he's stalked by these rats, and he leaves his home, and he goes off to some faraway tower to lock himself inside to stop these hundreds of rats from chasing him. And he finally gets away from them, and he's lying in his bed, and then that's when we get the cat scare. So I'm going to go forward and find the cat scare. So here we go, this is it. He laid him down and closed his eyes, but soon a scream made him arise. He started and saw 2 eyes of flame on his pillow, from whence the screaming came. He listened and looked, it was only a cat. And the bishop he grew more fearful for that, for she sat screaming mad with fear, and the army of rats that were drawing near. Yes, and then he gets swarmed by the rats, and they fall from the ceiling, and they eat all of his skin and his bones, and he's died. So yes, that's the original cat scare, I think, from the 18th century. Beat that, Star Trek in 1960 something. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to read the whole poem, because it's, why not? It's an extra video, isn't it? Okay, so you didn't come here for poetry, you came here for cat scares. So here, without further ado, is a montage of cat scares, and I'll see you afterwards for the best one, for the best cat scare of all time.
Shh, nerds! Did you hear that? Jeez! It was just a cat. Let's keep moving. Holy crap! What is up with that cat? Is someone throwing it? Let's keep moving.
What's wrong?
So, here we are. I'm finally going to show you what the best cat scare is of all time. And it comes from an episode of Supernatural called Yellow Fever. Now, if you haven't seen Supernatural, it's about Sam and Dean Winchester, two guys that are brave and bold and fearless, and they fight monsters, and they're hard-drinking, hard-living guys, not scared of anything, you know. But, well, in this particular episode, Yellow Fever, there's a disease going around that takes away any bravery you have, and it makes you fearful and paranoid. And Dean catches this, and he becomes extremely scared of everything, as this opening scene will show. I'm going to show this opening scene to give you an idea of the tone of the episode, and then I'll show you the main event.
Run! It'll kill you!
Okay, so this next clip is the one. Sam and Dean are in a basement somewhere. They've heard a noise and they are approaching a locker. And what makes this cat scare so great is Dean's terrified reaction to it. Go!
That was scary.
So that is all from me. Please do consider subscribing. I don't just talk about movie stuff here. I'm a novelist and a screenwriter. Not a very successful one yet, but one day. Join me on my journey, and why not? There will be videos about all sorts of topics. Subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when new stuff is coming. Go to Twitter and share this, and Facebook and Instagram, and do all sorts of fun things for me. No, I'm losing track of my ending here.
Like and subscribe or we'll send you a cat!
Yeah! Bye bye!